Hello and welcome to the Who the Fuck is in the Mirror podcast. I'm Angela Spooner, your host, emotional intelligence guide, trauma-informed coach, yoga instructor, confident, badass single mom of 3 amazing children, and founder of Unabashedly You. This podcast is all about using books, analogies, and metaphors to dive deep into who you really are to yourselves, not just as parents or some fictional version others made you out to be, right? But who the fuck you are. I want you to find your confidently badass, secure version of you that you lost along the way, or maybe you never even had in the first place because you were busy with everyone and everything else. Does that sound about right? So how about we get into the science of why we are a bunch of fucked up individuals who look in the mirror and don't even recognize the person that's staring back. Join me in the best journey you'll ever experience. Why, you may ask? Because it is the journey to transform your self-doubt, insecurity, and overall dysfunctional brain into self-aware, badass confidence and understanding. I hope you're as excited as I am because I cannot wait to get into this.
Welcome to the carnival. Welcome to the carnival.
Hey everyone, how the hell are you all feeling? I know I'm feeling fucking fantabulous. So let me tell you, this week has been incredible, incredibly insane. After enormous amounts of simply feelings upon feelings upon feelings, like I was having these out of body experiences and that I wasn't able to feel grounded, I have finally decided to change my entire app around. Dun, dun, dun. I will tell you all about that later. But the reason I'm mentioning that right now is because I have really been experiencing what we've been talking about in chapter 6, losing my body, losing myself this last couple of weeks, okay? So I want to be real with you guys because we all know I'm not perfect. You're not fucking perfect. We all have our own shit. That being said, I had a situation this last week where someone was questioning who I was as an individual and making false accusations about my character. The accusations and specifics, they're fucking irrelevant. Okay. I'm not here to have a fucking gossip episode with you. What I will say is that this individual does not truly know me. This individual, okay, so the only thing I will say, I'm going to say a couple of things about the situation just because I'm using it for this episode. Okay, it's what does my dad call it? Metaphor and analogy. I always get confused if I'm using a metaphor and analogy. I'll just be honest with you. And so I have to ask my dad. And so he called them menology or methodology or something. It's fucking hilarious. But anyways, so I'm giving you an example. So this person, right, they were laughing at my business. They were laughing at my ability to help others. And they were just belittling me as a mother in general. It was really annoying for me. Now I look at it and I'm like, well, was it that bad? But we're not going to belittle my feelings, right? So it wasn't easy for me in the moment. But I do want to show you that I am human because no one wants to listen to this fucking perfect person who always has it together, quote unquote, and can never do wrong, right? How can I educate you on losing your body, losing yourself, if I am unable to express my own experiences on the fucking matter? So before I go further, I really do want to emphasize that the purpose of my story is not to shame anyone else, but rather it is to stress the importance of our own self-awareness in order to help others and see their perspectives. You see, it wasn't that what this person said was hurtful because it was true, because it wasn't true. It was rather that this person fucking blindsided me while I was trying to handle my son's emotions and just began degrading and berating me. And it like triggered the fuck out of me. And it brought back all this like emotional chaos my children and I have been through of all the people that like belittled our feelings and belittled our trauma and gaslit us. It was a lot. So I tried talking to this person, right, about my children's trauma. I wanted to help them understand the importance of showing children kindness and compassion and that we're all just fucked up individuals, right? So she ended up laughing while I was explaining it and said, "Oh, here we go about trauma." It was just like Colk said. Okay. I'm all, even when she says, "I don't like this chick." Okay, let me stop. It was just as Colk said. Reliving a strong negative emotion causes significant changes in the brain areas that receive nerve signals from the muscles, gut, and skin areas that are crucial for regulating basic bodily functions. And that recalling an emotional event from the past causes us to actually re-experience the visceral sensations felt during the original event. So I'm sitting there, right? I'm just reliving my ex-husband, the two DCS workers that were always talking shit to me that I don't even think work there anymore, my ex-boyfriend, all of them just belittling me, telling me I'm not good enough or strong enough or smart enough. I'm the problem. It's me, right? I know it's not all true, right? Because it was partially me. I did have my own issues, but my brain doesn't give a shit what I'm analyzing at this point. If I know it or not, it still is going to react thanks to my fucking foggy prefrontal cortex, my amygdala, and my hippocampus. I mean, really, thanks, guys. Another thing to remember is that my brainstem activates differently when emotions are involved due to trauma, right? As in the elementary self system in the brainstem and limbic system is massively activated when people are faced with the threat of annihilation, which results in an overwhelming sense of fear and terror accompanied by intense physiological arousal. To people living in a trauma situation, nothing makes sense. So people living post-trauma, right? Nothing makes sense. It's like this overwhelming burst of emotions erupts within you, like fear, blind rage, and like it's all life or death. You want to be able to calm down, to think critically, but your body is fucking telling you access denied, bitch. You want to sit there and listen to the people who love you. They're telling you to chill the fuck out, dude. Don't let others affect you, right? But when your mind and body are in this constant state of arousal, with your cortisol levels going through the roof and the feedback loop is not in service, so you can't have a regulation, right? And you can't have equilibrium or homeostasis in your system. How the fuck can you bring yourself down? Do you even know how? Is there even a way to bring you down? Can you really fucking sit there and say, ignorance is not actually being ignorant, but rather having a lack of information? or knowledge for the situation or conversation. Can you fucking sit there and say that when you're fucking pissed off? No, no. Tell me you can. If you can, then I'm sociopath. I'm just kidding. Okay. So I was literally questioning myself and my business because of all of this going on. But here's the thing, just like Colk said, I started out doing this in response to the slightest noises and became irritated by even the smallest of irritable things, such as my fucking kids being too loud. They weren't even angry. They were just loud, you know? I felt like I did before I had done any work on myself. So I felt like that constant anxiety, constant like not feeling in tune with myself, all of that. Let me fucking tell you, when you make your business all about mental awareness and understanding your body, and you feel what's going on and can't control it, you begin to wonder, holy fuck, am I even cut out to help anyone at this point? I did exactly like Hulk said, and I triggered all these desperate attempts to shut those feelings down I did freezing and dissociation. So the next few days were spent in like this haze. I couldn't understand what was really going on. I was just kind of sitting there like, what the fuck? I couldn't even process. Okay. And I had this constant like anxiety feeling, anxious feeling, I should say. And I couldn't even think clearly. I was like, what am I going to do? And I would just stare. Like I'd stare at my computer, I'd stare at my phone. I laid in bed. I tried like melatonin. What was I going to say? I was taking all this like electrolyte fluids to try and like calm me down. I was doing mindfulness, meditation. Like I literally was trying everything to just calm the fuck down, but I couldn't figure it out. There was this disconnect. So that being said, how much control do we actually have on our subconscious brain? I think of the lady that Colt talks about at the beginning of the chapter. She had experienced a verbally abusive and dismissive mother, and then she was held hostage and raped multiple times by this guy when she was on vacation. Her trauma had her picking at her skin, and she had disassociation from her surroundings and her body. Like she was totally in another world, right? She had a therapist try to get her to quit harming herself by telling her she couldn't see her unless she quit. Like who the fuck? I swear, some of these people in mental health, I completely understand this poor lady's frustration because all you want to do is to have someone understand you. You don't want people to leave you alone and say you're going through a lot, so I'll leave you alone. You want nothing more than to communicate effectively and be able to calm your mind by telling it that you're safe or to tell your loved ones you want to be understood and be able to explain it. But your disassociation and freeze response within your brain makes your words come out like blah, 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 blah. Like Charlie Brown, right? The fucking teacher. She used to drive me insane. Have you ever even experienced that? Like maybe you haven't experienced that exactly, but maybe some form of that, right? It feels next to impossible. Well, it's not completely impossible, right? Because the good news is that, as I always say, there's always hope no matter what your damn brain is fucking telling you. I just had to get in touch with my agency, quote unquote, which is technically, according to Kolk, it's like the technical term for feeling in control of yourself, your body, and your life. You're like the agent, right? You're the agent for your agency. aka your body, your life, and your. It begins with interoception, which is our internal sensory awareness. The more in control that we are of it, the more in control of ourselves we become. So let's look back at that lady Cole talks about. She eventually received massage therapy, and initially she couldn't even feel the massage therapist. So she was screaming. The lady was like massaging her feet, and she like freaked out, and she was like, "Where are you? Where are you?" Because she had her eyes closed. So she's freaking the fuck out because she's that disconnected from her body. So she sticks with it, thankfully. And eventually it does help her to calm her nerves and increase her awareness and focus. Okay. So what I'm saying is somebody that's been through trauma like that and trauma that I've been through, it can end well. Not end well, because obviously I'm not dead. I don't think she's dead. I don't fucking know. But my point is that there's always fucking hope. Always. She stopped picking and she could feel her feelings again. So getting back to my shit show, right? So when I was experiencing this, I couldn't understand why yoga, meditation, trying to be mindful weren't working. I had to dig deeper and deeper and deeper and cry till I realized there was something far bigger going on. It was my business. That of all the things that could be going on, my business was what needed to be changed. The problem was not even this fucking woman, right? Because even my dad was like, I've never seen you, like in years, I haven't seen you be affected by someone like this. And I was like shaking and I was like, who does she think she is? I can't believe she's saying all this about me. See, if we are triggered, we'll get to it in a second. Because if we're triggered by it, then there's even more chaos because there's something else going on and just getting me away from that situation that just heightened up my already heightened state. Because I had to really think about it. And I was like, holy shit, I think I was feeling this way for the last few weeks before. And like, then I started thinking because we do tend to forget past experiences, right? And I was like, well, I have been thinking about this for a while. And I just felt kind of like maybe I was tired. Maybe I wasn't working out enough. Maybe it's because I wasn't running, right? Like, what could it be? See, the thing is that this individual is actually known for not taking criticism very well and doesn't believe in teaching her children kindness and love. Most would sit there and believe her empathy would be non-existent, right? They're like, she just doesn't have empathy. But is that really the issue? Is it really that she has no empathy? Or is it that she has become so incredibly good at deflecting and projecting that her heart has essentially hardened to love, acceptance, and change? Normally, I would have picked up on that right away, and she wouldn't have even affected me. But because I had already been feeling a disconnect about my business, which is a huge part of my life, obviously, right? No shit, Sherlock. My whole introspection was off. Don't forget, however, that it isn't enough to know what the cause is. You must also figure out why you are feeling that way and how you could possibly reconnect. So for me, my body was trying to tell me that the way I was running my business wasn't me. It wasn't wholeheartedly Angela. I know people talk about how you feel like like you don't belong, right? When you start a business, anytime somebody starts a business, it's kind of that feeling of like imposter syndrome. You're like, ooh, I don't know if that's my business. I don't know if I'm good enough, right? I don't know if I know enough. Now, in some cases, yes, I believe that it's just like imposter syndrome. You just have to get used to it, right? I knew it wasn't true, and I was trying to convince myself. I knew the issue for me was that I wanted to help women to move past their past and become self-aware, confident, badass women and be able to validate themselves. I had been listening to what other people, i.e., coaches, instructors, that I wasn't listening to what I truly wanted. They say high ticket price with low base, right? Like low client base to work more one on one. But the whole purpose of my app is to help women learn how to function on their own and validate themselves. It's kind of like when you homeschool your child. You can homeschool them because you want to protect them. But the problem is that eventually they will have to go out into the world. And depending on how you raise them and what you educate them on and how you talk to them and who you have them interact with, they could sink or swim. If you educate while they're in a private school or public school and you build strong bonds with them, in my opinion, they could learn to help others better than us even and be fucking phenomenal and amazing rock star examples for people. If we raise them right, what's that saying in the Bible? If we raise them in the way that they should go, when they are older, they will come back to it. That's that sort of thing, right? If we are raising them right, we know eventually they have the fundamentals to go back to it. That is what I want for my clients. They've got to keep me on my toes and have me constantly researching and learning. I want them to build each other up, to learn how to incorporate these things into their life. It's one thing for me to sit there one-on-one with them and tell them, hey, do this, work on communication, work on yourself. How the fuck are they going to exercise these practices if they don't have other people to do it with? They could do it with me, yeah, sure, but I'm the safe space. So of course they're going to naturally fucking do it, right? So anyway, once I realized that, it was like this whole fucking elephant or hippo, get it? Like the hippocampus. Anyways, was just lifted off my chest. My whole mood and energy was like shifted. I had let go of who I was in one aspect. And when we do that, we risk losing our introception. Our goal should be to constantly try to figure out our bodies, sensations, and minds, all of it, on a consistent basis. Hello, everyone. We have some exciting news for you. We, as in me, myself, and I am switching up my app. So all my 6-week challenge content and more are going to be easily accessible to you in my Confident Queen membership at $49. If you're listening to this podcast, you already fucking know why. That's all I have to say. So hit me up, let me know, because this is a pretty golden opportunity. You get your Confidence in 7 method, Blast Fat Guide, the 6-week videos for the crash course, but you'll also be getting prompts. You'll still be getting live coaching sessions, live yoga sessions, mindfulness, We are going to make this so much fun. We're even going to have like a game, like mindfulness games. Like we have a meditation, Jeopardy, and it's all going to be easily accessible on our Zoom sessions. It's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to get started on this. It starts July 1st. So let me know. Oh, also I have a 7-day free trial. Thanks. Have a good day. Boom. Check this out. See, Kalk and I are always on the same wavelength. He said, knowing what we feel is the first step to knowing why we feel that way. Again, how do we get there? How do we get to a point where we know why we feel this way and not just that we're feeling this way? Right? We're posting all over social media about how he broke my heart and my kids are pissing me off. And then we make dark humor jokes because we can't process these emotions, right? I know. You look at my Facebook like years ago, that's all I had was fucking funny memes and, because disassociated. I was literally closing myself off, which we'll talk about in a second. But how we get there, to go the other route, how we get there by mindfulness, and yes, fucking mindfulness. We cannot connect with our bodies after trauma without becoming mindful of how we're feeling. Think of me giving up when that woman was trying to say all those hurtful things to me. Well, I mean, she wasn't trying. She said all those hurtful things to me, right? If I had just left it at, oh, don't let it affect me, just ignore it, I would be doing exactly what I tell my clients not to fucking do. You have to accept that you are having feelings and that they are valid and worthy of being noticed, or you'll never have full connection with your introspection. And that mohawk we talked about in my last episode will be slicked down like John Travolta's hair in Grease. Okay, we won't have sense of self. Trauma will take your imagination, your creativity, and it will attempt to squash it like a fucking bug. Side note, I remember my sister and I, we used to sit there and we used to say, like when we were squashing stuff, we were little, and we'd say, I'm gonna squash it like a bug. And we'd say it like little devilish smiles on our face. That is trauma kicking your fucking ass and playing with your emotions and fucking laughing at you the whole fucking way, bro. Don't let trauma kick your fucking ass. Be courageous. Take chances. Don't fucking give up. Believe in who you are and what you stand for, and the rest will fucking follow. So while I was going over this chapter, I had my kids come ask me to walk through the garden, right? And they were like, come look at all the flowers in the cactus garden that are blooming. So there's only like a couple of times every year that happens. And it's like hundreds of flowers that are blooming. But I have about 20 things I'm trying to get done due to switching my business all around. So I told them I just didn't have time, right? Fucking jerk. Moms these days. If I had stuck with that, I would have had that feeling of self-loathing because I couldn't just take a few minutes to show my kids that little moments matter. But guess what? I began feeling those feelings and immediately closed my computer and my book, and I walked outside. I didn't stay out there long. I was like out there for a few minutes. I don't know. But seeing their smiles and faces glowing, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I'm pretty sure they were glowing, was what amped me up even more to do things and get things done, because it gave me a little rejuvenation break, right? You are reminded of why you're doing what you're doing. Our senses see opportunities and we need to listen. Our bodies are longing to be heard and truly felt and understood. Now, this doesn't mean you're supposed to just jump up and do anything you think your body is telling you. We call that impulsivity, guys, and is actually your trauma trying to not process and think things through because your brain is terrified of reliving those feelings and pains associated with the past, which evidently will come up in mindfulness exercise. Hence why therapists or anyone in any form of mental health does not generally say, let's jump right in if the people with the trauma have never gone through any kind of trauma work in any way, shape, or form. I did it, and 10 out of 10 do not recommend. I did it with 3 kids. That shit was brutal, okay? Crying, snot everywhere, emotions, feelings, gaining weight. It was rough. So, anyway, here's more. If I had taken that time to really experience my awareness and mindfulness, I may not have been able to realize what was really going on with this woman saying all of that to me. So again, it is important that we are aware and mindful, not only of ourselves, but of others. Kolk says the more people try to push away and ignore internal warning signs, the more likely they are to take over and leave them bewildered, confused, and ashamed. People who cannot comfortably notice what is going on inside become vulnerable to respond to any sensory shift, either by shutting down or by going into a panic. They develop a fear of fear itself. Those were his words exactly. Okay. See, I hadn't even read that yet, and I realized it. How fucking amazing is that? The more you can understand yourself, the more you're able to understand others. Once I was able to connect with myself and my sense of self, I looked at the situation again and noticed her face. Like, have you ever sat there and you notice a person's face, but it's days later and the situation is already past and you're like, oh, actually, I don't think they really did like that, right? So that was me. I saw fear once I was actually regulated and looked at her face in my mind, and complete terror. Now, it wasn't because of anything I said. You know, I'm 5'1" and like just an emotional girl now. So it was her face that was like when she began lashing at me, it was like looking at a scared child. You know, when your kids come up to you sometimes, like especially the hormonal ones, you know, going through puberty, and they're sitting there and they're like, oh my God. And they're just like so terrified, right? And it's something to us, it's something so insignificant, right? But to them, it is a fate worse than death. That's the kind of face she was making. Now, some people will tell you that, yeah, fuck that chick, right? She's not worth your time. But in actuality, am I really doing my job as a coach and instructor and owning an app and owning a business if I'm not willing to accept the person, but not the behavior? She herself is not horrible. She just had a chemical imbalance that she had difficulty controlling, as we all fucking do. She's not some demon that's possessed, right? She has fucked up wiring in her brain. The problem is that this person believes she had done yoga, mindfulness, and meditation and running so much. Those were her words, by the way, that she was just good now. She said, I'm just good now. I feel like I'm just automatically good. And I think we all know, as I've mentioned time and time again, the reason I fucking built my business is because people are not just good. They're not just good after an experience or after trauma or after therapy even or after different programs, right? They're not just good. We're never going to be just good now. Our trauma is fucking there. Think of the staircase. Remember, I told you about the staircase. We have the lower brain, the upper brain, and we're trying to get up that staircase. Inability to get up the staircase to get to where we can actually process the information in a healthy way, right? And so we're like, fuck, this box is in the way and it's nailed to the staircase. How the fuck am I going to get to the upper story so I can process, right? But the problem is that she built the new pathway and then said, oh, I'm good now. You're not even using the fucking staircase. You built it. If we are not connected to our bodies at all times, we risk understanding our interoception and if a situation is dangerous or if it's safe. All situations go back to the default mode because the second staircase you built to get to your upper brain and process information in the prefrontal cortex in a healthy way is no longer being used. So you're back at your first staircase trying to climb over and through that huge moving box that's nailed to the staircase. It won't get magically easier over time to try and push through it. You'll just begin to give up trying to get the information to your prefrontal cortex in a healthy way because your default state has no sense of self. It's a whole whirlwind, right? And if your brain is in this state, guess what it's doing? It's eventually going to go into shutdown mode. Oh, I have a headache. Every time you have to go somewhere, you know you'll have to use your thinking for just kidding. I had a headphone malfunction. So, okay. So, you know that, oh, I have a headache every time you have to go somewhere, you know you'll have to use your thinking for, but you're like, no, hard pass. Or the sudden tummy ache, or, oh, I have so many things to do. This is where doing things to become aware of your body is and how it's feeling and how it associates with your emotions becomes truly vital. For instance, my sensations began showing up back when I didn't do any of the self-care, right? A couple of years ago with my GI system and my breathing. I also had headaches. There was a few times I thought I might have cancer, self-diagnosed, probably because of the fucking anxiety, right? I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. But remember with that, actually, if your body is secreting all kinds of unnecessary hormones and responses that are not like they're way out of proportion, right? For non-threatening situations, the cells can build up, which guess what? Just like we talked about with Joshua a couple weeks ago, cancer is bundled up cells that are abnormal. So then I want to mention this thing. It's a phenomenon that psychiatrists talk about. It's called alexithymia. That one. Yep. This is where someone may have emotions, but not know what's going on within themselves. Kolk says they tend to register emotions as physical problems rather than as signals that something deserves their attention. They have all these feelings and aren't able to describe them. He gives an example of being amazing at business related activities, but then you suffer when it comes to emotional connection with your family. That was me 100%, guys. I'll be the first to admit that I was excellent at work and organizing and leading out, right? I was like, I'm such a boss. But my feelings and emotions, ew, gross, was my immediate reaction every time. Ew, gross, that's disgusting. I was just like I was just like their study shows, right? And displayed extreme anger, or I'd kind of space out. I remember so many times I'd just fucking space out and be like, what was I doing? My sense of meaning, fucking gone, right out the window, dust in the wind, right along with re-victimization. Oh my God, I'm always the victim. Wow. Just looking at it, like, I can't believe how far I've come, you know? So therapy to me was completely a waste of time. It was a joke. And now I'm sitting here getting fucking certified and skilled in multiple areas and continuing with more certifications and skills in order to help women accept themselves fully and completely and feel feelings and emotions. Good job, me. Let me just high five myself, right? Again, okay, I digress. Again, I stress and Culk stresses. Let me not take all the credit. That being in touch with your body and the sensations in your body, all in relation to your emotions, is vitally important. If you lose that sense of self, they call that depersonalization. When experiencing this, people feel a sense of being separated from their bodies. Oftentimes, they'll have difficulty feeling pain, pleasure. They can't see shapes, whether it's like people or objects. They're like misshapen. These people become their own strangers. Like, who is that, right? They'd be perfect for my podcast. Who the fuck is in that mirror? So all of this in this chapter comes down to connection with your body and sense of self is key to regulation and understanding. Culp describes it as befriending and becoming familiar with the sensations in your body, baby. Physical self-awareness is the first step in releasing the tyranny of the past. I love that because then he also says, asking how you can, he also asks, how we can ever feel safe if we look at our to look at our internal issues, if we don't first feel safe in our surroundings. So how can we sit there and say, I'm going to work on myself when I'm still being abused, or you're still being abused, or you're being degraded, right? You're still in that environment. So how the fuck are you going to grow and focus on sense of self? You still can't even look at yourself because you're too worried and you have your anxiety through the fucking roof. So Culp mentions some of these sensations, right? Not like fear, anxiety, or anger, because those are more internal, but he talks about rather pressure, heat, muscular tension, tingling, caving in. These are the physical sensations associated with your emotions, but tend to be underneath and not easily noticed. By using breath work, awareness, you can focus on things like your clisp. I can't even talk. See this? Clenching of fists. Your chest gets tighter, belly aches. There's like other shifts in your sensations, but basically, like even your breath, it gets a little more heavy. Your eyes, they're sitting there, and depending on your feelings, your eyes are either dilated or pinpoint, right? So it can be hard at first to notice these things, and it can actually lead to higher anxiety. That is why it is important to notice yourself as you're working through your trauma. I will end with this. If you are curling up and rocking or in defensive postural mode, it may be time to shift energies and take a break for a day or so. It may take longer or less time. The important thing to always remember is that only you can tell your body when it's ready to begin again. Be your own advocate for your body, for your own sense of self. Isn't it time to actually allow yourself space but to continue to work on yourself for yourself, it's either that or just continue numbing the pain with prescription upon prescription, negative coping mechanisms. I'll just have sex with everybody until I die, do drugs, drink until, you're black or blue. And I don't even know where the black came from. I was thinking of black and blue, but that doesn't even go with drinking. So I'll just shut the fuck up. But anyways, you're just going to do those things over and over again. That's cool. Whatever. Just pushing it all down deeper, hardening your heart, hardening your overall well-being and happiness. Who gives a shit about that, right? Because you don't want to feel the feelings, right? Don't punish yourself for what others have done to you. Don't punish others for what they've done to you. It's time to focus primarily on you and what you need now. It's time to find out who the fuck is in the mirror. You guys have a wonderful fucking evening, day, whatever time you're listening to this. Make it be wonderful. Bye.